I've witnessed some brutal moments in life, but nothing compared to the night a woman publicly humiliated her own daughter at a wedding in front of Boston's most powerful people. That daughter was me. Let me set the scene. March 15th, 2024, the Fairmont Copley Plaza, 200 guests, judges, lawyers, the city's elite, my sister's wedding, and in a moment that would define everything, my mother walked onto that stage, thrust a stack of documents into my hands, and demanded I sign over my $2 million penthouse as a wedding gift. When I refused, her palm connected with my face so hard my earrings scattered across the marble floor. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far darker. That night, I made one phone call. 1 hour later, a woman appeared at the reception. When my mother saw who it was, she screamed, because the person she'd told everyone was senile and gone had just arrived with a lawyer and proof of everything she'd been hiding for years. Before I continue, let me take you back to where this nightmare started. March 2021, 3 years earlier. I was in my studio apartment in Somerville eating pad thai and reviewing blueprints when my grandmother's name lit up my phone. Eleanor Harrison's voice was steady and direct. A Harvard law professor for 31 years doesn't waste words. She told me she was updating her will. She was leaving me the penthouse at 150 Seaport Boulevard, purchased for $1.8 million in 2015, now valued at over $2 million. I set down my chopsticks and listened. When I asked why me, her answer was simple and devastating. Because you're the only one who visits, every Sunday for 10 years, while your mother sends Christmas cards and your sister sends nothing. You bring me tulips because you remember they're my favorite. You sit with me, even when I have nothing interesting to say. I felt something break inside me. Grandma told me the paperwork would be finalized next month. Marcus Webb, her attorney of 20 years, was handling everything. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Your mother will not be pleased. That was the understatement of a lifetime. The news leaked within weeks. I don't know how. Boston's legal world is smaller than people think. But by April 2021, my mother, Victoria Harrison, had orchestrated what she called a family discussion at her $4 million home in Beacon Hill. I walked into that living room and knew immediately I was facing a tribunal. My father Richard in his leather armchair, my mother Victoria on the settee, my sister Madison perched on the couch like she was posing for a photograph. Victoria's voice was honey over broken glass. We need to talk about your grandmother's condition. She's clearly not thinking straight. A $2 million property to one grandchild? That's not rational. But it was her right, I said, her decision. Madison let out a theatrical sob. She was too busy with her career, her fiancé with his yacht. My father, Richard Harrison, spoke for the first time. You should decline the inheritance, he said, or agree to sell and split the proceeds equally. This was the same man who'd missed my college graduation for a golf tournament. Now he was lecturing me about fairness. I told him the truth. I'm not declining anything. I'm not selling anything. Grandma made this decision because she wanted to. Talk to her if you have a problem. The temperature dropped. Victoria's smile vanished. Then I hope you're prepared, she said, for the consequences of being so selfish. And I had no idea what those consequences would be. What started that day would spiral into 3 years of calculated psychological warfare, exclusion, lies, manipulation, and a scheme so dark that even my grandmother, with all her legal experience, needed hard evidence to prove it. That evidence was waiting. But first, I had to survive the wedding. Let me read the second part. Now I'll rewrite this second part, maintaining the intense drama and revenge tone, continuing naturally from where part 1 ended. I was still pressed against the cold stone of that balcony when my grandmother revealed the truth that would destroy everything. 6 months ago, she said, a reporter named Daniel Reeves came to visit her. Daniel and I had been friends since college. He was now working the investigative desk at the Boston Globe. He'd found something strange, a property sale in 2020, a house in Cape Cod that belonged to my grandmother, a house she never sold. Her voice was steady as she explained. Your mother sold it for $875,000. She forged my signature on the documents. The world tilted. I couldn't process what I was hearing. My grandmother had hired forensic experts, a company called Forensic Document Services right here in Boston. They analyzed the signatures. The probability of forgery was 98.7%. That wasn't doubt. That was certainty. My mother had committed fraud. She had stolen from her own mother. When I asked why she hadn't gone to the police, my grandmother's answer broke my heart. Because she's my daughter. Because I hoped there might be some explanation. But we both knew there wasn't. That's why you moved to Brookhaven, I realized. Not for peace and quiet, because you couldn't trust her. My grandmother's voice hardened. I couldn't prove anything without destroying everything. So I removed myself, protected what I could, and waited for her to make a mistake. Tonight might be that mistake. If she exposes herself publicly, Marcus has everything we need to respond. The forensic report, the original documents, witnesses proving I was in the hospital when those signatures were supposedly made. I couldn't have signed anything. I stood on that balcony absorbing the weight of it all. My mother hadn't just tried to manipulate me, she'd committed a federal crime. She'd stolen from her own mother and let my grandmother take the blame for being irrational. My grandmother's voice pulled me back. I'm not telling you this to make you hate your mother. I'm telling you because you need to understand what you're dealing with. You need to know you're not alone. When the time comes, if she pushes you beyond what you can bear, call Marcus Webb. Tell him the documents are needed. He'll know what to do. I heard the smile in her voice when she added, if Marcus calls me, I'll be there within the hour. I've been waiting 3 years for this, darling. I'm not going to miss it. She hung up. I stood in that cold wind, straightened my shoulders, smoothed my dress, and walked back into the ballroom. I was ready. 7:30 p.m. Dinner had been cleared. The toast had been made. My father's stiff speech about legacy. Tyler's father waxing poetic about the merger of two Boston families. I sat at a table near the back with distant cousins, trying to be invisible, but my mother had other plans. The clink of metal against crystal cut through the room. Victoria Harrison stood at the head table, champagne flute in hand, microphone in the other. Her Valentino gown glittered. She wanted to take a moment for something very special, a family tradition, and suddenly, 127 pairs of eyes turned toward me. I didn't want to move, but refusing would make me the difficult one, the ungrateful sister who ruined Madison's wedding. I walked through the maze of tables, past curious stares, up to the platform where my mother waited with her serpent smile. Paige has been holding on to something very precious, she announced. Our mother left her a beautiful penthouse apartment, $2.1 million in value, quite an inheritance. Paige has been keeping it safe, waiting for just the right moment to share it with the family. And what better moment than this? She produced a folder containing transfer of deed documents. All Paige needs to do is sign, and this incredible gift will help Madison and Tyler start their marriage in a home that truly reflects their future. The room actually applauded. They applauded like this was a heartwarming moment, not public coercion. Mom, I said quietly, I'm not signing this. Victoria's smile didn't waver. Don't be nervous, sweetheart. It's just paperwork. No, I kept my voice steady. It's the apartment Grandma Eleanor left to me, not to Madison, not to the family, to me. The applause died. The silence was deafening. Victoria's grip on my shoulder tightened. Her voice dropped, but the microphone carried it everywhere. Let's not make this difficult. I'm not making it anything. I'm telling you no. That's when she did it. That's when she finally showed everyone who she really was. Her hand came up fast. I saw it coming but didn't move. Her palm connected with my face with enough force to spin me slightly. My earring flew across the marble floor. The room erupted into chaos. Gasps, screams, people jumping to their feet. I touched my burning cheek, looked my mother directly in the eyes, and did something I'd never done before. I didn't cry. I didn't apologize. I didn't break. Instead, I pulled out my phone, walked to a quiet corner of the ballroom, and dialed the number my grandmother had given me. Marcus Webb answered on the second ring. This is Paige Harrison. Please tell my grandmother that the documents are needed. Understood, Miss Harrison. She'll be there within the hour. I hung up and sat on a velvet bench, touching my stinging cheek, and waited. 1 hour. That's all I needed. 8:45 p.m. The main doors of the Fairmont Copley Plaza opened and my grandmother walked in. Eleanor Harrison was 78 years old. She moved with a cane now, her gait slower than I remembered. But everything else about her radiated the same formidable presence that had made her one of the most respected law professors in the country. She wore a gray cashmere coat over a simple black dress. Beside her walked Marcus Webb, wire-rimmed glasses, charcoal suit, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it contained the weight of the world. Grandma, I stood and my composure cracked. You came. She crossed the lobby and took my face in her hands, examining my cheek with eyes that missed nothing. She hit you? Yes. Eleanor's jaw tightened. Then she kissed my forehead gently, the way she had when I was a child. Then let's finish this, she said. We walked into the ballroom together. The wedding was in chaos. Clusters of guests huddled in conversation. Madison was crying while Tyler and his parents hovered nearby looking mortified. Victoria stood near the head table, gesturing emphatically to my father, who seemed to be trying to calm her down. No one noticed us at first. Then someone gasped. Then another. And then Victoria turned and saw her mother walking across the marble floor. What are you doing here? Victoria's voice came out strangled. Her face went white. My grandmother's response was ice and steel. I'm here for my granddaughter's wedding. I wasn't invited, of course, but I decided to come anyway. I hope Madison doesn't mind. My grandmother turned to face the assembled guests. 127 people, many of them lawyers and judges who understood exactly what was about to happen. My name is Eleanor Harrison. I was a professor of law at Harvard for 31 years. I'm of sound mind, and I am here to confirm that the penthouse at 150 Seaport Boulevard, the property my daughter has been publicly demanding my granddaughter surrender, was left to Paige in my will. That will is legal, valid, and enforceable. There are no other claims to that property. Marcus Webb opened his briefcase and withdrew a document. This is a certified copy of Mrs. Harrison's will, notarized and filed with the Suffolk County Probate Court. I've been her attorney for 23 years and can attest to its authenticity. This is absurd, Victoria shrieked. Mother, you're confused. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly, my grandmother replied. What you don't understand is that I've been watching you for 3 years. Watching. Marcus withdrew a second set of documents. These are transaction records for a property in Cape Cod, a property that was deeded in Eleanor's name until September 12th, 2020, when it was sold for $875,000. I did not sell that property. I could not have sold that property. I was in Massachusetts General Hospital for 6 weeks that fall, recovering from a broken hip. I signed nothing. I authorized nothing. Victoria's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Marcus produced a third document. This is a forensic analysis report from Forensic Document Services. Their conclusion, the signature is inconsistent with Mrs. Harrison's authentic handwriting. Probability of forgery, 98.7%. Murmurs erupted through the ballroom. I saw lawyers exchanging significant looks. You're lying, Victoria's voice cracked. This is all fabricated. You're senile, Mother. I'm sharp enough to hire experts and preserve evidence, my grandmother replied. I'm sharp enough to have forwarded this entire file to the Suffolk County District Attorney's office last week. The color drained completely from Victoria's face. Forgery and fraud, my grandmother said softly. Up to 5 years in prison under Massachusetts law. I didn't want to believe my own daughter could do this. I gave you 3 years to confess, to make it right. But instead, you spent those years slandering my granddaughter, calling her a manipulator, calling me senile, trying to steal her inheritance the same way you stole my property. Victoria spun to Richard. Richard, say something. Stop this. My father, who had stood silently through everything, took a step backward. I didn't know, he said flatly. I didn't know about the Cape Cod house. You signed the transfer, Victoria shrieked. You were there. I signed what you told me to sign, he responded. I didn't know it was forged. The room watched in horrified fascination as 35 years of marriage disintegrated in real time. Madison finally spoke, her voice small and broken. Mom, what is Grandma talking about? Victoria didn't answer. She couldn't answer. She stood in the center of her own carefully constructed stage. Her perfect wedding, her perfect audience, and everything was falling apart. My grandmother turned to me. Her eyes were tired, sad, but resolute. Paige, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry I waited so long. It's okay, Grandma. I took her hand. I understand. She squeezed my fingers and looked at Victoria one last time. You lost me the day I discovered what you'd done. Tonight everyone else just got to see the truth. She turned toward the exit. I walked beside her. Behind us, I heard Victoria start screaming, incoherent denials, accusations, demands that someone do something, but I didn't look back, not once. When I walked out of that ballroom with my grandmother, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about winning. I was just thinking about how much time we'd lost and how grateful I was that we still had some left.